Hello there. So, hi to everybody this lovely Tuesday evening. We've got myself and, which way I'm pointing, Rich over there from Drumhead. But today, as you may have noticed on this screen, we have a very special guest. The last 2 weeks were brilliant, and thank you so much for getting involved. But we wanted to do something a bit different this week. So this week and next week and the week after, we've got some guests coming on. Today, we have got a relatively well-known drummer there, and he's an amazing. He's just incredible. He came up a few weeks ago before the lockdown and filmed a day of drumming at the Drumhead studio, and I think it's fair to say that he blew us all away. We've got some amazing tips and tricks and some amazing grooves. All that stuff is going to be up on the Drumhead site when it goes live. But for now, get yourselves ready for some great tips on warm-ups. I think a lot of you guys out there will be stuck in your houses with probably no drum kits and just a practice pad and wondering what to work on. So I will now introduce the guy who is below in here. This is Mr. Ian Matthews from Kasabian.
Hey.
And there he is.
All
So,
right. How you doing?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Lockdown going all right?
Yeah, it's going all right. I mean, the great thing about the lockdown for me is it's actually making me practice, which is, I think when you came up and we had a chat about it, I know you're very good with your practicing. I have been a bit lazy over the years, it has to say. So
I'm not brilliant with it. You know, it's like, I'm sure, you know, I should do much more, like we all should. But I've really been like you. I really found that I'm actually like, there's no pressure on to learn tunes or to have a certain distinct style or something because there's something coming up in the diary, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost like I've gone back to being like the kind of stuff I was working on when I was like a teenager.
Yeah, absolutely.
Harder. Do you know what I mean? And I'm really enjoying it. And I feel much, I don't know, I feel kind of like better, you know.
It's quite, I mean, obviously the fact that we can't do what we do basically, and you know we've both got things that have been cancelled over the summer festivals, and I know you had a huge show in
the band. I mean, we're gutted.
Yeah, I mean,
about it, you know, but it's reality. And yeah, I mean, I was looking forward to it because we haven't played since I think October 2018.
Wow. It's flowing. I mean, and it was obviously. I mean, it sold out in like minutes, didn't it, as well? So which is incredible, and it's in I mean, it's not your hometown, but it's I guess are the rest of the guys, are they all Leicester based or?
They're all Leicester based, yeah.
All Leicester based. So, but it's such an incredible thing. But the thing is, the thing I'm holding on to is this is just a pause button, hopefully, and everything will, resume.
Yeah.
Whenever that is, it'll resume again, and we'll all get back to normal. But like you, yeah, I've really been enjoying just sitting just with a practice pad. When there's no pressure to learn anything, it's a lot easier. So you just sit there. I just get sometimes just the telly in front of me, get the metronome on, which I'm again not great at using. I have to say, and just getting used to these exercises, and also spending time just sort of trawling YouTube to find some amazing players, because there's loads of people out there now putting some great content on, and every day I'll look at and see a new exercise that I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And that's the amazing thing about drumming, isn't it? That you can go all through your life, like Joe Morello.
It feels infinite, really.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you've got Stick Control, that grey book, which is an amazing piece of work, and then once you've done stick control, once you've looked at stick control, you can then look at Joe Morello's book, Master Studies.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still scratching the surface of what's possible. You've got, once you've gone through those kind of exercises, then you can go polyrhythmic with it and then send everything over another sort of bar count. It's goes on and on and on, you know.
Well, that is the great thing about drumming, isn't it? I suppose every instrument, so that it's never ending. You can go all the way through your life and be playing until you. I think Don Famularo was saying that he went to see. I think it was Jim Chapin or Joe Morello the day before he died, and he had his practice pad out, you know, and in hospital.
Yes.
And you just think about that. These guys at whatever 80 years old, 80 plus, still having the skills to do what they do because they've done it properly. You know, I guess that's the key to it. You've got to learn to do it properly so you don't wreck your body. But yeah, you can do it all your life and never stop learning.
But the thing is, learning to do it properly has saved my career, because back in 2010 I fell over and broke this knuckle.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose I should have had it looked at properly, but I went on sort of, I had it properly looked at the time, and then I was on sort of like a bit of R&R, whatever they call it, and then went back out on tour. But I've got muscle wastage in what was called the fulcrum, so I don't hold the stick properly like I would in my right hand.
Right.
I hold the stick from here, but because I've been taught proper technique, allowing the stick to bounce, molar technique, and all the various sort of things that I've been able to put together as a technique for myself, I've still been able to maintain a career, although I've got this flappy hand, literally gammy hand. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you mentioned that when you came up and told us about that, but I have to say, it doesn't seem to be. You know, you seem to be getting through it pretty bloody well from what I've seen. I mean, when you came up, I know that after you're gone, Rich and I, we just, and Ash, we're talking about it, just saying. It was just so great to see, what you can do basically, because obviously, we both play in, I'm going to say it in the wrong way, but in bands where you play for the music, and that doesn't always let you do everything you want to do. And just, we were just jamming away with the bass and stuff, and you kind of letting go, and it was just great to watch. And I know, me and Rich come from quite different types of backgrounds. I just kind of fell into it and loved playing the drums and just messed about until I basically got in a band that got a deal. Rich, like you, went through the real learning it and doing it properly route, which I wish I had done. It's just bloody lazy, basically. And I've had to catch up a lot on the years, and it was Rich who basically picked me up, 15 years ago. I went back to him, and he basically taught me. I remember him teaching me like a paradiddle. And I was like in my 30s, and I'm like, I'd never used it in the music, and I didn't really do it. I had to go back and learn it all again. And yeah, I'm very thankful from that background. But I mean, did you sort of grow up that way, Rich? Was that your?
Yeah. I had lessons from day one. Really, the first time I played a drum was in a drum lesson. It was middle school. Then when we had middle schools, it was, does anybody want to do drum lessons? Yeah, I do, please. Yeah, went to the drum lesson. First time I played a drum. 9 years old, and I've just never ever stopped with it, and I've studied all the way through. Finishing, over the last kind of 20 years really studying with Don Famularo, which is where the sort of technique side came from, and it opened up my playing really. But something to talk to Ian about, I think, is that technique is, in my opinion, technique is only there to serve the music. It's a means to an end. I think some people have technique and make it the focus of their playing, but then they lack musicality with it. The technique is just a tool to get to where you want to go in terms of the music. Yeah,
you can land up sounding very bookish, as they call it, or too academic sounding if you're if you're not immersed into the musical side of it, the art side of it. It's a bit like a mechanic having a beautiful snap-on tool, case.
Yeah.
They have the massive armoires. And that mechanic needs to know every single tool in that armoire, but the art isn't in just the tools. It's knowing exactly what's wrong with your car, or how to rebuild a beautiful classic car or something.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? It's
absolutely. I use a little analogy with my students a lot, which they all look at me and go, "Something wrong with this guy. He's not normal." I'll say to people, like, techniques like a lawnmower. Nobody ever bought a lawnmower because they want a lawnmower. They bought it because they want to cut the lawn.
Yeah.
That's what the technique is. The technique is the middleman to get you to achieve what you're trying to achieve.
Well, there you go. I own a lawnmower, but I have no idea how to make my lawn look amazing.
But what about in all this weather? Surely you must have. But yeah, and I think it'd be good to sort of jump in now and have a look at maybe the things we were talking about earlier, because talking about technique and talking about exercises and what people can do at home. Just before we came online, Ian was sort of talking us through a few of the exercises and warm-up techniques that he uses, either just at home or before, he's going on with Kasabian. And I think that they're key at the moment for people to work on. So let's maybe I'll just pass over to you and maybe just have a look at one of those exercises and just explain it to folks out there. Before he starts, get your pen and paper ready, okay? Because even earlier when he was mentioning it, I'm there writing it down, going, "Well, I can use that one in a lesson." So it's really the gems. They're really good, and we were both there, me and Rich, going, "Oh, is that what you mean?" So so let's do that. Just one quick point, Rich. If you can turn your mic up a little bit, you've gone really quiet. It sounds good, but you've just gone really quiet.
Is that better?
Yeah, I think so. That's a bit better.
Yeah, good.
Okay, I'll talk louder. Okay, Ian. Well, let's talk us through one or two of the exercises.
Oh, okay. Well, I had this exercise. I mean, I've spoken about this before in that kind of the clinicky things I've done. But I'm sure. I mean, Peter Riskin has a very similar exercise. I had a teacher years ago, Terry O'Brien, ex-army guy, and he sat me down and he said, "Right, what we're going to do is we're going to line your hands up. We're going to make sure not only have you got great independent control of your sticks, but that your sticks are landing perfectly together," which is harder than said than done. And I don't know, I kind of always use this as a warm-up. Very often, backstage on tour or something, and I've come, I've got a bit of jet lag or something. It's a really good exercise to kind of get not only your sort of arms, fingers, hands, wrists moving, but also try and get your brain thinking as well, because that's half of the warm-up, really. I think is to switch yourself on somehow. So it's just, I mean, the way he introduced it to me was 7. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with the right hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with the left hand. Right now I'm doing pretty much full strokes. 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're going to do 7 together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we put that together. We try and get a flow from the right hand to the left together, to the left hand to the right hand together. And that's kind of the round. We've done the full round. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Left, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Right, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Together, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That in itself, I guess, picking on an odd time is enough to kind of get your head rolling. I guess you could concentrate just on doing the odd times. So you could just concentrate on maybe 3s. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What I've tend to have done over the years is I've tend to roll that from 8 to 1 back up to 8 again. So it starts off fairly easily. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry. Up to 7s. 6s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 5s. 4. Oops. 3s. 2. And this is the hardest one. It's literally 1 with each. So you got right, left together, left, right together.
Right.
And then you're going back up. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. I can't even do it myself.
You showed us when you came that a few weeks ago when we did it. You showed us that exercise, and I was doing it afterwards. Bloody hell, that turnaround when you get down to 1. I don't think I've yet to get it right. And also, if you try, and fair play to you, because if you're trying to, when I've been sort of teaching that, and I was passing it on as something that you'd show me, saying it and doing it at the same time, bloody hell! If you're trying to say, and now 7s, and now 6s.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to be I'm like some kind of like, celebrity chef. Good. No, and it's all going to pieces. It's an exercise to switch your brain on with, really. Do you know what I mean? So I would tend to do it maybe in a little ante room somewhere, or not much around in the corner, and you just got your head down. You know what I mean? You just sort of like do your little exercise thing. So.
Well, it covers so many different areas, doesn't it? As well, like you say, it covers the odd time side of things, the playing in unison. Which when you say it, people go, "Oh yeah, that's easy," but it isn't. Is it? Try and get things 60 come down at the same time.
Well, if you think about grooving on your drums, this thing is like there's going to be times when, as an artist, you need to be in control as an artist. This is one thing about technique we were talking about. One of the most important things as an artist to be in control of what you're doing. You're making the decisions, not your drums or your hands and legs making the decisions for you. So if I want to play a groove that both on that 2, on the 2 and 4 are coming down, baff, right there, I've got that facility to do it. Mm-hmm. And then if I want to like mess with my groove, then I can flam it out. Do you see what I mean? I can go from that nice tight corner to maybe
which comes down to what Rich says all the time. It's about choices, isn't it? It's about what you do with it. You've got to be able to do all of them, and it's how you choose to use them. You don't flam like that just because you can't play it in unison. You know what I mean? You've got to be able to do both, but to create these feels.
Although we learn flams is a rudimental thing, for me it was the kind of, and I was probably 21, 22 when Terry was going around my house. It was that little revelation that actually got my mind to think about it more. If you see what I mean. Yeah.
I said to a student this afternoon, who may or may not be related to you, Mike.
Hey.
I said to him the difference between where he's at the minute, and he's playing great. Yeah. And the difference between where yourself's in or whoever else in the thing is the detail. Is the having control to be able to get the detail in your playing. So if you want to play a flam, it comes out as a flam. If you want to play the 2 and the 4 bang on together, it comes out bang on together. Yeah. It's the main difference, I think, between a lot of what I would call really great players and then somebody who goes forward and really kind of makes it and is a pro player. They've got the full control to make the choice to be able to pull off that.
Tiny little things, yeah, exactly. You'd be surprised if you just throw your, like you're going to do like a China snare, or a snare drum and floor tom. Just attack the pad and see how it turns out. Just one beat, just from and sit and see what it sounds like. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Right there, got it. Yeah. Anyway, do you want another one?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm not going to take credit for this. I was at NAMM show. Mike was there as well with Code. NAMM show is the big trade show in America in Anaheim. And it was the end of the weekend. And Jim Kilpatrick works with British Drum Company. on the axial snares and on our marching ranges and stuff. And we were just sort of hanging out. Steve Shedden, who's a great snare drummer, was with us, the three of us. And it was the end of the weekend, and there was no one around, so we just sort of sat around. And we just started doing, silly little things with each other with a pair of sticks each and a pad and bits and pieces. And he came up with this little thing, and he was kind of like half joking at the time, but I've kind of run with this exercise, and it literally is: we're going to accent one beat, okay, and then with the other hand 2, and the other hand 3, and back to the other hand 4. Finally, your right hand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, where we can turn around opposite way around. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Each accent is going to be, or accent passage, is going to be separated by 2 little taps. So if I'm going to start with my right hand first, I'm going to go right, tap, tap. Once more, right, tap, tap. Now I'm ready with my left hand to do 2, 1, 2 accents, tap, tap. 3 accents with the right, 1, 2, 3, tap, tap. 1, 2, 3, 4, tap, tap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, tap, tap. And then we start with the left hand. And let me just show you this a little bit quicker so you can see the sequence. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Have some fun with that.
Yeah, that was the one that you were showing us before we went on. The one that I was trying to work out what the hell you were doing, but it was and that's
what I just did then. Was that cool?
You what? Sorry.
Was that cool? What I did, was it?
Yeah. Was that exercise? Yeah, I think that's great, and that's really, I haven't seen that before, and I think that works really well. Again, it's something. There are just so many variations out there of things you can do, but trying to build the speed up with that. I know just briefly before we started doing it, and you were saying there that when you get to the 4, was it 4 that for some reason?
Yeah. What you've got, which is a good thing about rudiments, is mirror imaging your hands, not in one particular direction, but the ability to go in both directions, judge your sound, judge the way you're striking the pad. Have I got a good equal sound going on to my hands? And also a counting element in there as well. So there's grey matter going on. It's not just I've got a paradiddle and I can just go off into the distance doing a paradiddle. You kind of have to think. You have to get your brain going. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I was just going to say the same thing. A lot of your warm-ups appear to be in 3s and 5s and things to make you think. Is that a deliberate choice that you make? So you've got to pay attention to what you're playing?
I don't know. Maybe that's why they've stuck with me, I guess.
Right.
I guess so. There's a couple of other things, but I've never written it down, but I've got a tick that I always do, which is a kind of leftover anecdotal memory from when I was about 7, being taught the Paradiddle song, and it's off of a Dueling Drummers album, which I've forgotten what it's called now. I was a kid at the time, and it's like jazz big band, and it's very basic play along for beginners. And they had this Paradiddle song, so I sometimes do this. So I don't even know what that is.
I was just trying to work it out as you did it.
I should write this out for you, shouldn't I?
Right, that's fine. We'll do it now.
I don't know. I have to work it out.
You got some paradiddle diddle or something there, or?
I think it's a combination.
Yeah, but things like that I really like, because you can get something like that, and like you say, I don't really know what it is, but but it's a tune, isn't it? You can sing it. It's there, you know. And that's the thing I like to sort of say to a lot of students when they're learning these little exercises. For me as well, it helps me to learn it by just to learn the tune, basically. You know, like that one that Rich put out as a challenge a while ago. The one that sounds like America. You know, the song, the America.
Yeah.
You know, every time I go to do that exercise now, I just have to sing that, and I can work out what it is.
Yeah.
But that's just the way my brain works. This one, we've got a question saying that last exercise, the Jim Kilpatrick one. How does that sound? And it's not a challenge, but it's a bit more speed. How does that come out?
Well, I don't know. Ask Jim.
Here's only a question.
Let me have a look. I think I've got it right. That's
There we go. In answer to your question, so I just put my glasses on so you actually asked that question. Yeah, it goes like that, and it sounds bloody great. But you know, whoever asked that question, I can't say who it was. You'll know what it sounds like when you practice it, won't you?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Brilliant.
So it's down to you.
Something else I've always loved doing with practice pads is getting two tones out of it, especially with the main sort of neck of the stick. I think that's kind of I don't know if you do it much, but
yes, yeah.
So I like doing exercises which got a little bit of that going on as well.
Well, again, it makes your practice pad practice a bit more musical, doesn't it? Yeah. It makes it a bit more tuneful, something, more interesting about it. Because basically, I guess a lot of people don't like using the practice pad because they find it boring. But I hated it for years and years. And then when I actually got to a level where I was okay at doing stuff on it, I suddenly started actually enjoying the practice pad. So a lot of young students, I'll say, look, you've got to fight through this, and you'll get to a point where it'll actually become another part of your drum kit, rather than that dreaded horrible thing that sits in the corner and you've got to do the horrible stuff on it. It can actually be quite pleasurable, really.
Yeah, and quite relaxing. I mean, obviously we're doing like 3s and 5s and 7s and stuff, but yeah, I mean, like I said, you can just like waft. You can watch the telly, have or not have a metronome on, and get your form, get the way you want to move. If you want to move like up and down, or with that lovely molar flow. You can just you can just let it go without having the kind of, I don't know, slight formal side of sitting in a drum kit.
Yeah, and plus when you're behind the drum kit, everything's bloody loud as well. So it's sometimes it's kind of, it can be a bit much if you're sitting there on a snare drum for ages. It's just a bit overpowering, which is why the pad is great. But yeah, those some great tips, and I hope people out there are making note of those, because all of these are things that are going to improve your drumming. I'm just going to jump in with a question that's come in, which is basically asking your favourite 3 drummers. Okay, now we didn't expect that one to come into it. Go on. What would you say if you had to? I mean, this is a terrible question, isn't it? Because there's got to be so many out there. But what I guess what are your most influential and your favourite? Because probably maybe it's quite different.
Yeah, this is the thing. Actually, this is an interesting question, because when I was a teenager, then I could have dropped that one hard, no problem. But as I've got older, and I've seen and heard and watched and whatever, it's like going down a tunnel, like a long railway tunnel, and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but the further you walk down the tunnel, the light seems to keep going away from you. And the same with drumming. I mean, and it's changed and it's morphed over the years, I will say somebody who launched my imagination, and I was lucky enough to go and see in 1986, and I still have over here somewhere, I don't know if it's not obviously easy to get to, Buddy Rich. And I went to see him in 86 or 85, I think, actually, at the Colston Hall in Bristol. And I've still got the program that he signed. I went up to the table and he signed the program.
Oh wow!
And he was such an exciting player of the drums. He was the first person I was made aware of, and I had his Live at Ronnie Scott's album when I was very, very young.
Mm-hmm.
And I've still got that album over there with the program still in it, and I've worn out some of the grooves on the records.
Excellent.
Again, so I guess listening to something like that, when I got a bit older, I suppose I got really into like the heavy metal thing, and then suddenly like the next exciting person to come along was Nico McBrain. Because it just like just got my brain alive with drums, and I used to listen to him and Clive Burr. To be fair,
yeah, absolutely.
Clive Burr's work on the first 3 albums, I think, is very soulful.
Mm-hmm.
But the first album I bought was Live After Death, which was Nico playing live.
Yeah.
And so I got right into that. He just brought me alive with it, and then. You go along a bit, and then you get a bit older, and I moved out of my metal phase. I mean, there was all sorts of drummers that I was enjoying listening to in that time, and then you get hit by Steve Gadd suddenly. Someone gives you Asia, and goes, check that out. And it's like, what the hell is this on here? And actually, I do remember when I was in marching band, I remember watching the Steve Gadd up close video around the drum instructor's house one afternoon. I don't know why I went around there. It might have been for some extra tuition on drumline stuff, and he put that on. So I was aware of him, but it wasn't until a bit later that suddenly it was like, oh my god! And then from that, someone goes, oh, check this one out, and it's like Chick Corea with someone doing some insane stuff. And then like nowadays, I mean, I love Peter Erskine. I mean, his books that he's written and the work that he's done is beautiful. I love Jeff Hamilton. I think he's an incredible brush player, an incredible musician on the drum kit. It starts to go on and on a little bit. From my peers, I love the accuracy of someone like Dominic Howard, Muse.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
When he's playing that kind of stuff, it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of like basic stuff, but it's just the way he sort of prescribes it with the music. Just great.
Yeah, because it makes it whatever he does, albeit simple grooves or whatever. It suits the music perfectly, doesn't it? And the way he performs it makes the music, dance. It gives it that thing. It grooves basically, doesn't it?
That's right. Zach Starkey. I mean, someone actually I got to know really well, Zach, and because we did obviously Kasabian initially supported the Who back in 2004, and Zach was playing with the Who, and then we went out and did a world tour with Oasis, and Zach was playing with Oasis, so I got to know him really, really well. Just Zach's manner behind the drum kit rubbed off on me. Just the way his manner on it, kind of like. Big beats, big attitude, just brilliant. So nowadays I find myself in a bit stricken for the favourite 3, but
yeah. Well, the trouble is, the more you learn about drumming, the more you listen to more drummers, the more you realise there are more drummers out there, and like you say, it becomes huge, and there are so many players out there.
Yeah, I mean, I hope the question goes some way towards.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And somebody else says here, Richard says, okay, what are the fundamentals of playing for the music, and how have you kept that in your mind as you've developed?
I came from a place of not understanding that at all. I came from a place from overplaying, having far too many chops and far too much, I don't know, hypertension in my body. Mm-hmm. It's really been a lifetime's work, and actually the lessons have been taught to me by the musicians I've played with, played for, where I've been, gently asked to like ease off here or ease off there, and doing recordings and stuff, recording demos, getting involved with studio stuff. You soon hear yourself.
Yes.
Back to demos I did when I was like in my early 20s. It's like, what the hell? Because I had so much facility back then. I mean, I was doing a lot of pad work then, actually, with the Master Studies book. my single stroke rolls were ridiculous. I played because I studied for that. I played like that.
Yeah.
A long time to work out that actually doing that around a drum kit is actually a sustain in itself. All I'm doing is a block.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making a statement. There's no music in it. It's just wah. If you go on a drum kit, you're feeling like the man going.
Yeah.
And actually, what I'm doing is going ba 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 ba. Do you see what I mean? There's no flourish in there. There's no statement. There's nothing to hang in with the music in there. You know, go it's better than da da ba ba. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. I know when we were doing, we were working.
It's brilliant, but and getting that going, you know, we want it. You know, when you're doing a jazz thing or a big band, or you really want to cook something up, a drum solo, or do the end of a tune, and you want to get that. But actually, that's kind of took me years to realise. Put it in a box. You know, it's nice to have the fireworks for firework night, but just keep them in a nice metal box.
Yeah, it's true. It's like the big Phil things. When we did a couple of albums with Youth, produced a couple of our albums, and he always used to say to me as a drummer, it was like, you know, I've always seen you as a big, like a stadium band. So therefore, I want you to do big stadium fills that would make sense in big venues. Whereas, just like what you said there, a massive single stroke roll really fast is just a blur going around the kit. Whereas if you get that badam, 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 you know, you get those type of things in. They just, people who don't understand, you know, that well, not don't understand music, but don't understand the sort of, that sort of drumming. They get it. Everyone gets it, basically. Everyone gets those fills, and everyone feels those fills, and it makes the music jump out where it needs to jump out, where rather than just being a noise.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. You've got sections of songs that need to be played, and then maybe you can introduce the next section. That can be a flourish or not. There's as much power in not doing anything there is doing something.
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing, I think, is to have that kind of unwritten, I don't know, contract with the other musicians around them, not to cut them off, not to cut them up.
Yeah.
You know, if someone's like chatting, going, "How you doing, mate?" and you got your mate next to you going, "How you doing, mate?" Yeah, really, really good.
Yeah.
And you got to make sure as a drummer that you're not doing that, whether it be down the pub, on a big stage, in a rehearsal room, in a recording, you know, suite. You don't want to be that guy, unless you're asked to, unless they want more excitement. And it's better for someone to ask you for more, if you can, than not, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I guess you'll get into that. I guess you'll get into that a little bit more from your jazz playing, Ian. Because one thing that really surprised me from when we sort of did the day's filming a few weeks ago is that obviously I've listened to Kasabian for a lot of years. I knew that you played jazz as well, but your jazz playing really blew me away. As somebody, I've said this to so many people since we did that. You know, often I sit in rooms with drummers all day long, teaching them, doing things with them. And it's not often now that somebody sort of gets me and really impresses me. But you're playing, and I'm not just saying that because you're here, you're playing massively, massively sort of got to me. And I was like, whoa, this guy really understands this. This is brilliant. And I guess from a jazz point of view, you'd approach that a little bit different in terms of, you know, playing that drum solo in the jazz song. Because I'm guessing there's not many opportunities to play a full-on drum solo in Kasabian.
No, I suppose like you do, yeah, with the jazz thing. I mean, this is what I'm missing with lockdown now is away from Kasabian. I do a lot of jazz gigs. I've got some mates from around Bristol, and I play in Bristol, sometimes in London, in some of the clubs in London, like Pizza Express and such. Jazz is an interesting one, actually, because again, I've come through the similar thing of just being overactive and too loud and too ballsy all the time. And nowadays with my jazz playing, I really enjoy like snake charming, pretty much like I do with Kasabian now. Again, with that basic beat, you know, really, and you're like sending it out. You're sending that rhythm out to the crowd, and you're grabbing them and you're watching them come back with the flow of the beat. and their ears are full of the sound of the lyrics, and they're being waved around by the harmonies that are going on stage and the bottom end. But your drum beat is driving them.
Yeah.
And the same with the jazz thing. I love being in a small jazz club and having a room full of people where you kind of literally just got them and you just hold that rhythm, hold the beat. And then again, facility thing, the technique thing is, so I can hold this. I've got that down, and I've got every, I mean, this is what goes on in my head. I mean, it might be a little bit pretentious sounding, but I'm just trying to get the whole room flowing and the musicians I'm playing with. And then that might be enough. Back down again, just come back. I don't know. It's again all this stuff. It's nice when you need to accelerate, if you want to jump into hyperspace because you got a drum solo or some big moment to lift everybody into something. But I think that's where it kind of belongs, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
no, I think that's brilliant. I mean, you even, I know, people will say this from when we put the recordings out, but you even went to the point of potentially changing sticks to get a different sound out of your ride cymbal.
Yes.
That's like, people don't do that, or a lot of people don't do that. That's that, like we talked about before, the detail in your brain going, I want this sound. How do I get it? That means me playing with a 7A or something. Well,
that is, I mean, okay, so I'm using 5Bs now on my pad because I think it's a very comfy stick to hold. It's nice and wide, and I can play for ages with a nice 5B, and it makes a nice contact sound with the pad. I tend to use 5A though when I'm playing the rock stuff, Kasabian or whatever, just playing like because I think that's a good balance between contact with the drums and the cymbals and also being quite flighty in the air.
Yeah.
If I do want to get any dynamic changes, or if I do want to break out on something, then I haven't got a head to. I don't find my sticks too heavy. I think some people like heavy sticks because they want to slam the 2 and the 4 in. Do you know what I mean? They want the secure feeling. Mm-hmm. And you're right, 7As. I tend to use 7As in if it's getting a bit quieter on a gig. If the gig's a bit like this ain't going to be a loud gig, and I want a slightly more Riley sound from the drums anyway. Yeah, I get the 7As out. And then when I'm doing proper jazz stuff with like maybe a grand piano and an upright bass player who's got minimal amplifying, like a little cube thing that they have, minimal, and maybe a violinist or something. Then I'm flitting between brushes, and I use American Jazz 5 AJ5 jazz sticks, really thin and really old school, and they take a bit of getting used to, but it means I don't feel as if I'm slave to the dynamic. I can still play, and I can still, my body can still move. I can still dance into the ride cymbal, but it kind of keeps my sound down and makes my sound even thinner and more dancing underneath that kind of setting, if you see what I mean.
No, that's brilliant.
I think it's making my life easier. That's all.
No, well, that's it. And again, I think that does that come, or have you found that as you've got older as a player? The way you've
back in the day, years and years and years ago, when I was a kid, I might turn up to a jazz gig without even a pair of brushes. So this is all stuff that you kind of learn as you go along, and kind of realize you've made mistakes, and you kind of try and sort it out, rectify, and experiment. I mean, myself, I don't know enough to ever stop experimenting. I'm constantly learning and finding new things and finding new hacks.
Yeah.
I think it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, you should always be. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's a good thing to say. You should always be experimenting, trying to find new things, because it's always out there. But I'm just going to jump in, because I know I'm aware of been at it a while, but there's a couple more questions coming in. Okay, so Clive asks, "What's the hardest thing you've done as a drummer?" I don't know what's the hardest thing you've done as a drummer.
what's the hardest thing I've ever done as a drummer?
I don't know.
It's not really difficult. I've been doing recently is with a band called the Jazz Defenders. The Jazz Defenders. They've got a album on Spotify now, and the drumming on that is done by a guy called Matt Brown, who's a fantastic drummer, a fantastic young jazz drummer. And but he's no longer involved with that project. The project's Bristol based. So I'm home off tour because, as we said earlier, the last time I played with Satan was 2018. And so the guys got in contact with me and said, will I come in, will I stand in for Matt? Because Matt's busy with other things and we're launching this album and why don't you, do you want to come and play?
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to come and play. And he said, well, we'll send you because it was before it came out on Spotify, so we'll send you the link to the album. And I was like, yeah, great, it's going to be fine. I know all the lads and everything. Great. Oh my God, what the hell's this? The first time. I had no tell of it, what was going on, like little switches and turnbacks.
Yeah.
And then eventually went for rehearsal the afternoon before the gig, and then the actual parts came out. And I can read. I can read my way through chart music and stuff. Mm. Things make more sense. But I went into that gig really, really panicking, like brave face and all that. Yes,
yeah. Was it okay in the end? Did it work out all right?
It worked out really well. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But I love a good challenge. I remember, years and years ago, doing my jobbing drummer around Bristol thing. We did. I got called in to do the pit drumming for Avita at the Hippodrome, and it was they don't release that show. It's not like for any theatre show to pick up. I was doing Avita this year. You have to have permission from what's his name, state, and so it was a big cast of thousands. So many of the Amdram companies got involved, so there was a massive stage full of people, and they had some pros front it, and of course it was sold out every night. But the music in that, is like proper reading and proper West End style in the pit. Do it, and of course, because it isn't the West End, you've got a week of show. We've got the rehearsals and the other stuff leading up to it, but you've got that week, to nail it. And it's Ralph Simon's playing on that, that stuff, right. the film version. And that was challenging. That was great.
Excellent. Well, so some great answers, and I'm trying to read the questions as we go along. So I want to try and get in a couple more before we move on to wrapping it up, maybe. But let's have a look. There was one from Jack. I think he said, "Oh yeah, any exercises for fast bass drumming? Is that something that any tips for speeding up your foot?" Is that
yes. I haven't got a pedal here, obviously, but I'm going to do it on the pad, I guess.
Yeah.
So this is a really good little warm-up exercise for you, and you can work on it. Okay, so there's 3 gears with the left foot. So we're going to go, first gear is quarter notes with the left foot. This is your hi-hat foot. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then with your right foot, you're going to go 1 with your heel down as well. You can do it heel down. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, and you can do that for a while. And hit the triplets. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and do that for a bit. And then 16s. Do that for a couple of times around. Now, what I sometimes do, with still keeping the quarter note of the left foot, I'm going to do groups of 3. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E to 2 E to 3 E to 4 E to 1 E to 2 E to 3 E to 4 E to E and 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 Now go to 8th notes with the left foot, and then go through the whole thing again, and then go to ands, the upbeats, 1 and 2 and 3 with the left foot. Now I'll take you through that cycle 3 times. Once you've done that, you can get your, I think with this sort of similar, this is like about 80-85 beats per minute. I would suggest you do accents on the bass drum. 1 and 2 and 3 with a sort of heel down approach. And then you can do like, I mean, if you read a bit, you got some accents in like something like, in one of your like snare books or something, anything with accents in, going across eighth notes, you can just lift your heel up when playing accents. So, for instance, I'll do 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and so I'll go 1 and 2 and 3 and you can do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and so on and so forth. Once you finish that, actually, I know you're asking about bass drum, but a good one is to do exactly the same thing with the hi-hat, go through the same sort of accents that you might have been working from, and playing with the heel down on the unaccented beats, but splashing the hi-hats with the heel in, so you get and that's a really good kind of like footwork sort of thing.
Well, I mean that. Yeah, I mean that is, if you go through that, the whole lot of that, Jack, as you asked the question, that is a pretty comprehensive workout for both your feet. And like you say, you know, for the left it's your hi-hat, but you know, it might be a double bass drum. You know what I mean? It can be.
You can do exactly the same thing with the left foot on the bass drum.
Yeah.
And with actually, what you could do is, I said quarter notes into eighth notes into offbeat eighth notes with the left foot, whilst you're working out this right through the eighths, triplets, sixteenths, and groups of 3/16. Well, you can do the same thing on the bass drum, on the left foot bass drum, and go for your 16ths that way. Go for the quarter notes, eighths, and offbeat eighths, and then swap it around the other way. And then you can just obviously do your accents with each foot. So it kind of works.
Yeah. Absolutely. So many great tips. So we'll just get one more question, I think, before we start to think about wrapping. So Andrew says, do any of you get nervous playing in front of other drummers, either at clinics or festivals? That's an interesting one. I'll tell you, I'll jump in with one there, which I had a few years ago, which was always funny. We were doing tea in the park, and we're on the main stage with Foo Fighters were headlining basically, and we went backstage around the back of the stage to check my kit out. Beaver, the drum tech, said, "Oh, come along." And I went on and sat down, and I started just sort of tapping away. And Taylor Hawkins came up and sat down on his kit and started blasting his way around the kit. I just got up and walked off. Yeah, this kit's fine. Yeah, bye.
Yeah. I think one of my, I mean, I did a clinic maybe 10, 12 years ago, and Steve White and Craig Blundell were headlining this event, and I ended up being on just before them. I picked the microphone up like this to introduce myself. and I suddenly realised I better put it on the stand and kind of just put my hands in my pockets or something and just talk to the crowd. And it actually works out all right in the end. But I was
like that with your hands in your pockets.
my kit was here, and every time I turned around, I could see the Craig and Steve's kits there. It was like, oh no, this could go horribly wrong. This, thankfully, it all worked out all right in the end. But yeah, pretty daunting.
Yeah. I've been playing in front of those two, doing the Freddie G Academy, but the weird thing is like I don't get nervous. I think the overall experience from Kasabian is kind of put my nerves to bed when it comes to like that, like shaky, like you're saying, oh my god, that kind of empty feeling in your body, and just all jelly, and like pangs of like, now I've kind of got over that a little bit, but it's interesting because doing the Freddie G thing, being there, like having to do the solo performance, and you've got Steve White, and you've got Greg Bissonette as well, and people like that.
Yeah, God.
What tends to happen is all my bright ideas, all my facility, all my abilities seem to just go, and I just seem to be left with anybody.
Yeah, I always go to the safe place when I get nervous. You go to the sort of safe place, and it's like, yeah. I can do that.
I go back to my Guildhall grade 8 drum piece from 1988, and it was all like diddly push, You know. So yeah, I think it. Yeah, I wouldn't start getting nervous as such. I did a gig actually a while ago, and the Harvey Mason, the original Harvey Mason, was present because he was over in this country touring, and he was playing with his band. He was playing the Colston Hall. But they'd arrived from America, and they were having a band night off, you know, the night off before their first show of Europe, you know. And they decided, they heard music was going on, so they came to the bar that I was doing this jazz funk gig in. Doing a jazz funk gig in front of Harvey Mason. It gets to the point where it's like, am I going to let this ruin my night, or am I just not going to give a shit what Harvey Mason thinks of me, because I am who I am anyway. I might as well just do it.
That's great advice. You are who you are, and you can do what you can do. I mean, you know, and if you're in a situation where people are coming to see you, you must be doing something right. So just do what you do, I guess. But
if he doesn't like what I'm doing, then great. He doesn't like what I'm doing, like a lot of other people might do. However, I might be lucky enough, which he wasn't at that particular night, to maybe, you know, give me advice on how to do it better. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it keeps going back full circle to that thing of, you know, you're always learning, and you can always learn. I think, I mean, it's been great. It's been I have to say, it's been really great to have you on, and as our first guest, thank you very much for coming on doing it.
I always have a laugh with you boys. It's great fun, always. You know,
it's just great, and it was, you know, I just reinforce what Rich said about the fact when you came up, we were just really blown away. And I would encourage anyone who, obviously, everyone's heard Ian play with Kasabian, but you know, after that day, I went online, I looked at some of the other gigs you've been doing in the other, and watching. You know, you play various different types of music, and I would encourage other people to do that and seek out other stuff that you've done, because it's well worth looking into.
I could drop some interest. I mean, I can drop some things if that's all right for a second.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
If you want to have a look on Spotify, there's a project called Noise in Your Eye that I did with recently. It's just came out this year. Nick Mason's on that. And Michael Giles, who used to be the drummer in, they did 21st Century Schizoid, King Crimson.
Bloody hell. Right. I listened to that the other day.
So,
yeah.
And that's something I've just recently come out that I've done. So give that. I mean, it's very filmic. It's very weird, but check that out. John Pierce is a little jazz thing I did, and Gary Ellsbrook song the Stories We Tell Ourselves is another little jazz album. So there's something Kasabian related that you can maybe have a listen to.
Well, it's good to see. Yeah, it's good to see all sides of you as a fully rounded drummer. And this will be going onto our Facebook, and I'll be on our YouTube channel after this, because it's all recorded, and it'll be there it'll just sit there. So anyone who hasn't caught this all tonight and wants to go back and watch it again to pick up the exercises that Ian did earlier, it's going to be there. So, you know, check it out, and you know, we'll put up those other things you've played on as well. But I mean, see if there's anything else to round it up. But I think what I'd like to do now is just thank everyone for putting the questions in. It's great. There were loads. I kept looking at it because they kept scrolling down. We've missed a load because there were loads. We could have been here all night, but you know, we've got to, and we may well do this again. Who knows? But thanks for all the questions. I'm sorry that we couldn't answer everyone's questions, but I think the questions that were answered really well. So we've got Pete Cater on next week, and then we've got Russ Gilbrook the week after, which will be loud. But I think it's a great crossover because obviously, you know, you do the rock stuff brilliant with Kasabian, you do the jazz stuff great, and Pete is a great jazz player as well, so he can explore the rest of that avenue. But pardon me, is there any final tips that you want to add or say anything about anything, Ian, or are you you're cool?
I mean, at the end of the day, you know, as drummers, whether we're just starting, whether we're keen enthusiasts, whether we do a few gigs, or whether we're pros, you know, the thing is not to stop doing it and to remember that even like just trying to sit on the drums or the pad every day for just like 20 minutes, play a few tunes, do a few paddles, is just a little bit of connectivity every day goes a long way, I think. So
yeah, absolutely,
100%. Yeah,
and this is the time to do it. Well, well, not for everybody, obviously, but if you are at home, you know. Well, if you're at home, I hope this has helped. I hope that you found this interesting. I know we have. And anything else to add at the end, Rich? Or are you?
No, just from me. Thank you to everybody for watching. A massive thanks to Ian again. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you and get your knowledge. You know, as I said before, guys, he's a real, true sort of monster of a drummer. So please, please check him out. It is amazing.
Yeah, it's great. And if you like what you've seen, as we always say, subscribe to our YouTube channel, click the bell or whatever you're supposed to do, and go on our Facebook page and follow us and keep an eye out with what's coming next. We're having fun. Hope you guys are as well. So with that, I'll sign off and say goodbye. Thank you again, Ian, and see you all later. Stay safe. Stay safe. See you later.